Hi guys, it's Christina from Redefine Creative, and we are back with another 6 degrees of scraplifting. So this is the layout that I'm going to be scraplifting from Christy Harrison, and this was yesterday's video. And here's the layout that I created. So I really liked how Christy had a lot of photos on this page, and there was this kind of diagonal design, and there was a lot of embellishing and some really fun elements. And I decided to go with a completely different color scheme for mine. And so, in order to scraplift this one, I knew I had to find an event or something that we had done that had a lot of pictures. So, something I really liked about her layout was she had that one main focal photo at the top and then a bunch of kind of supporting detail photos down at the bottom. And so, I knew I wanted to include that element. And I stay pretty close to hers in terms of the foundation of this page. So I've pulled out one of my favorite collections, and this is the Dear Lizzy Saturday. And what I am doing right now is just kind of making those different background layer pieces. So knowing that I wanted to follow kind of the structure that Christy had made it easy for me to kind of pull different papers and do some cutting and decide how I wanted to kind of piece everything together in the background. And so when I find something that I want to scrap lift like this, and I know that I want the foundation to basically be the same, it makes it very easy for me to start the page. And kind of having that very similar foundation allows me then to play with embellishing and make that be where things kind of go differently. So I'm taking this white sheet of background cardstock, and in her layout she had this diagonal that was kind of like 3/4 of the way down the page, and she had some torn edges. So I'm trying to also make some torn edges here on my pattern papers. But the top portion of my layout is going to be this kind of black with the white and pink little boxes, and they're in that kind of diamond pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to tear using my ruler along the very edge of all of these different patterns. So the top part is going to be that, and then the bottom part is going to be this pink kind of stripy paper. And I know in the back of my mind, having that down there gives me a perfect spot to fit in some journaling, because I do know that, this is a story that I have some journaling that I want to include. So given that, I went ahead, I've torn the top, I've worked on this bottom. I'm going to include this arrow paper on the left bottom corner, and that's a similar element to what Christy had in her layout. And then I decide I don't like how the top of that tore, so I'm going to tear it again to give myself a little bit cleaner edge. So depending on how you tear the paper, you can get a really jagged edge or you can get a much smoother edge. And so you're going to see I got rid of the jagged one and I'm going with a much smoother edge here. So you can barely tell in this, but you can see in the close-ups that it is torn. And so I'm just going to adjust that bottom accordingly. And then I have that oversized corner piece with the arrows down there in the bottom. And I'll move it up here, hopefully, in just a second so that you can see how the bottom of that is coming together. And I do have that little piece there that is torn, and I'm just going to go with it. So you see my fingers on it at the moment. I am going to glue that down, and it's going to be fine. It gets covered up with my photos and embellishments, and it's no big deal. I'm just going with it. And so the photos that I'm using today are from the Orlando Eye, which is this huge Ferris wheel in Orlando that my husband and boys and I went on when we were down there on vacation. And it was kind of a last minute stop. We had not planned on going, but we had a little bit of extra time, and so it was something that ended up being really neat. They had like iPads set up inside the cars, so you could point out different landmarks and see different things throughout the city, which was really cool. And so then I've gone ahead and added that border through the middle of the city. And I thought that was perfect because it goes really well with this idea of my photos that we're looking at the city from up above. And rather than the one central photo up at the top with the journaling box, I'm going to go with 2 photos because I already know in the back of my mind that I have room for the journaling down on that background paper in the bottom. So I'm going to include 2 of those photos that I want to focus on up at the top rather than just one like in Christy's layout. And then I'm going to kind of go ahead and overlap and kind of detail these photos down here on the bottom. And so I have 4 different ones that I am including down there. So 6 total photos on this layout, and I consider that like massive bonus. And so something else that I liked about Christy's layout is she has these tags and embellishment clusters that are really full. And I feel like sometimes I struggle with making sure that I have the right amount of embellishing. So sometimes I feel like I'm on the not quite enough, I should have added more. And sometimes I feel like, oh my goodness, my embellishment jar just exploded all over my page. So this is something that I really struggle with. If you struggle with this too, leave me a comment down below. Let me know how you're doing with that, or what are some strategies that you are using to kind of work your way through that, because I definitely still need some help in that area. So I'm going ahead and I'm just adding in all those different layers behind the photos. So I have tags and I have some little like stamp type things. I just threw a bunch of different stuff back there. So the way I start when I'm embellishing like this is I go through my collection first and I pull out all the things that I think are going to work from that collection. And then I look at what colors are still missing or what do I need more of. And then I have an iris container that has all those little 4x6 boxes all arranged by color of my older ephemera and embellishments. And so then I can look and see, okay, I need something else in blue or in yellow or pink. And then I can pull from those specific containers. And that's just stuff from random older collections. And it works, it's a system that works really well for me. So I've gone ahead now and I've glued everything down. I've added a little bit of embellishing down on the bottom. I don't want a whole lot down there by my photos because there are so many photos and they're busy. So I don't need a lot of embellishing down there on the bottom. I've kept most of my embellishing up towards the top. I've also added my title right over the top of my photos, and it's going to be Simply Live, and that's going to go along with what I have to talk about in my journaling. So I have those two things that are going to work together to kind of pull this layout together, because it has nothing to do with a simple title like Orlando Eye or Seeing the City or something like that. So that isn't necessarily the story I'm going to tell on this layout, because that story is very evident just in the pictures. So you can look at the pictures and see, yes, they're up above the city, they're looking out, they're doing this, they're doing that. Okay, so I'm adding some little puffy stickers, and these are just going in random places throughout the layout. So I have some cameras on there, I've included some arrows, some little puffy sticker hearts, all things that coordinate with my colors and just add a little bit more dimension and detail. And so I'm really liking how all of this is working so far. I did pull out those hazelwood triangles and decided not to actually use those. And then I am going to go ahead and add my journaling here. So my journaling is going to say, just so you can kind of see how it ties in with the title, says, we made a complete spur-of-the-moment vacay decision to take a ride up in the Orlando Eye far above the city, and it was absolutely incredible how far you could see. These spur-of-the-moment adventures are one of our favorite ways to simply live. And so that's where I tie that idea of making these spontaneous vacation ideas and deviating from the plan a little bit, and I tie that back into that title. So not only am I talking about our trip to the Orlando Eye, but I'm also talking about kind of our vacation philosophy and some things that my family really enjoys about how we travel and how we vacation. And so all of that is going to be included in that journaling area. And then I am going to go back to my layout on the bottom, off on the very right, where you saw that I had that torn piece of paper. I feel like there's a gap there that needs some help. So I go back to my embellishments and I'm going to add a little bit more detail in that side. All of the weight of this layout was up towards the top and then over towards the left on the bottom where I have that big triangle of extra pattern paper. And so I needed something to balance all that out. And so you're going to see in these final photos, I've taken an ephemera tag and some puffy stickers and added them on that end. And it gives it more of that finished look. So it served as a way for me to kind of balance everything out. And I often make little decisions like that at the very end of a layout to kind of help things out. So I hope you enjoyed what I did with my scrap lift of Christy. And I can't wait for you to come back and see tomorrow what the next person creates based on my layout. Have a good day and we'll see you again soon. Bye!